So heat number 5 with the draw bringing together the champions of the past 2 seasons. University of London, winners in 87 with Canada's Norm Rockosh, the ergometer champion at 6. Sitting 2 back from his stroke man, Jonathan Hulls, who learned his rowing at Hampton School. Scullers on the far side, the defending champions from Chiswick, on paper perhaps not quite as strong as last year.
Well, we've got 3 of last year's crew, possibly 4 if we get through this round. If we get through to the final, we could have a 4th back. So it's a very different crew. Last year we trained for this event specifically over about 8-week period, whereas this year it's quite a scratch crew.
A rather uncharacteristically hesitant start there for UL, boat rolling around, which indicates very tricky water. Tideway Scullers on the far side, they look much sharper and more aggressive. They're settling down to a 44 strokes a minute rate behind John Beattie. Big experienced crew there from Tideway Scullers, but very rough water. UL looking much less happy than their rivals in these conditions. They're lower at about 41 strokes a minute. And Scullers seem to have the edge.
Coming to a halfway, quicker than Rob Roy though, but not much in it, just about quarter of a second.
Scullers have nice length there, oars well parallel, and they're moving very fluently at about 42 strokes a minute now, rowing in their yellow plastic German Empacher boat and American plastic oars. UL looking a bit more positive now over the second half after that shaky start. They're fighting back hard. Tideway Scullers just got the edge there, hanging on to that slight advantage.
Scullers on the far side now getting the call over UL and look to take first blood over their great rivals, and indeed they get there faster than Rob Roy to take over the lead.
Scullers might be lacking a bit in practice, but I think that was a very fine opener for them.
And UL just half a second behind in second place. So with 1 heat to come, exactly a second covering the top 4, but with only the first 6 to qualify for the Ross, the destiny of Thames Tradesmen and Kingston now in the hands of today's Walton, Cambridge 99. Here are Cambridge 99, 2 brothers in the crew, the Leytons, David at 7 and Peter at 3. Walton, as I said, the host club, and host clubs not with the greatest record in the history of power sprint.
Well, these 2 are the slowest qualifiers for the row-offs. Walton on the far side, on their home water. They've got a lot to do in terms of time if they want to get through to Peterborough. And that's Walton off at 48. They're using their power very effectively, strong-looking crew. And on the near side, Cambridge, blades on bow side going a bit deep, not really staying buried, rolling around badly there, catching water. A bit desperate looking that. And on the far side, it looks as if Walton have got the early lead.
And coming to our checkpoint, 33:07, that's the time that'll give us a guide for the 2 rows to follow. And there, Brian McMullen at stroke for Walton, pushing on.
The second half turn of the screw, that's what really has to count over the second half. Walton look to be moving well and moving away with a lot of fluency at 42. Cambridge probably paying for that rather suicidal starting pace. Very hard to maintain when you're rowing that far above yourselves. They're still at 46 and not really putting on the power through the stroke. You can see their oars going too deep, very splashy there. And yes, Walton certainly cleaner, more fluent and moving away all the time.
And their cocks, Caroline Ferreira now asking the crew for that last effort. Remember, it's all about time, and 1:16.79 is the target for the others to chase, and Cambridge well back there.
That's good for Walton, but will it be fast enough with some very good crews still to come?
So straight on to the second row off, another Cambridge battle, the students of Goldie on the far side against the club men of Rob Roy. Closest to us, just 9/100ths of a second between the 2 in the heats, Ian Watson at stroke. Goldie, Toby Backhouse, the big man in the centre, but the man with the responsibility on his shoulders, Matthew Britton at stroke.
Yeah, everybody's out to beat Cambridge, which is, I think, it's probably a good thing. And this is the first time we tried to go through the summer for a while, and we're going to aim to row all year round as progressing towards winning the boat race, hopefully. So yeah, it's important for us to get hard training in, so we don't mind that sort of needle.
Well, fighting talk from Matt Britton. He's an experienced man, junior world medalist and a senior international, and 3 times a boat race blue. Taking them off hard, 3 long strokes. Now winding it up to 49 strokes a minute. A lot of water flying about, a lot of messy blade work, but there's a lot of power too, especially from those men in the boat, middle of the boat. And Rob Roy staying very high as well at 49. They're not settling at all. They're powering along. It's a bit short though and a bit jabby. Cambridge on the far side, settling to 43, and they're sealing a slight lead there as they come up to the halfway point.
So 240 metres completed, and Goldie just perhaps in front by quarter of a second on the clock.
Well, now let's see how well Cambridge can really put together that big power and weight advantage that they have over the second half. Rob Roy rather paying for that scampering high rate. They're still at 48. Very hard to use their weight properly and to be effective. But just look at Cambridge now, squeezing by with those big powerful strokes. Stretching out now well, still a lot of water flying about, but you can really feel the power in that boat as they lean back on the finishes.
And Levi's asking them to go, and go they do to the line in the fastest time, and Goldie there by more than a second take the lead, well ahead of Rob Roy.
And what a good display of power rowing there from the light blues.
Cambridge University then in the lead, Rob Roy second, with Walton, the host, now in third place. So on to the final row-off, Tideway Scullers versus the University of London. Scullers closest to us in blue, the lighter crew, and stroked by John Beattie, himself an Olympic and world bronze medalist. University of London on the far side in yellow, all over 6 foot, with an average weight of 13 3/4 stone.
Ooh, UL got a flyer there. They really got away quickly. They've gone off at 50 strokes a minute. They reversed the stations. It's now really important to see whether they can harness their power more effectively than they did in their first race. Scullers on the near side here, not quite so tight. Blades going a bit deep, especially there from 3. Getting badly caught up there, Paul Wright. Both now settling at 44. And UL really got advantage there. They're about a third of a length up.
And Goldie's time there on the left, and UL are quicker by half a second.
UL blades very well together now, showing great form, great tennis speed there. Developing the power through the stroke very effectively. Terrific control power. Best rowing we've seen today here. Very quick on the pickup. A real credit to their coach there, Marty Aitken. Tideway Scullers, all those experienced internationals, a bit short of practice perhaps, and they're losing ground all the time. It's nearly a length now. It's UL, stroke man Johnny Hulls driving for home. Very cool customer.
I remember it was Scullers who beat UL in the heats, but they've turned the tables here in decisive fashion and won 13.09, and they've annihilated Goldie's time, and they've got clear water over the rivals. They'll be very satisfied with that.
Fine display that, and real revenge for their earlier defeat by Scullers.
And John Beattie and his crew a length back, well, perhaps a little disappointed with that.
We're very, very pleased to have got through, because that was our aim for today. We're a new crew, as I explained earlier, and we came in with the aim of qualifying and then working over the next period until the race, so that in Peterborough we can give a good performance. Having said that, having raced UL in the semi-final and beaten them, we really fancied our chances. And unfortunately, well, they jumped us on the start. We got off a little bit slowly, and they obviously went off a bit quicker, with us having done that to them last time. And we never really got into it.
Yeah, well, we haven't been out in the 8 too many times before this, and it just seemed to click just on that last row there. And the start came off really well, and we settled down into a very nice rhythm. It just, everything seemed to go right for us.
Was there an extra edge for this crew in that particular race then?
Yeah, I think we were all gunning to get them because, you know, they beat us last year. Yeah, I think we sort of pushed extra hard because of them.
So the champions of 87 back on top. The only 8 to break 1 minute 14 today, but Goldie improving with every